Alle Teilnehmer befinden sich im Zuhörermodus.
Hello, I would like to welcome you. My name is Jan Schlemminger and I'm going to show you a webinar about how to safely mix compiler output for legacy code in safety-driven applications. So first I'm going to introduce myself to you. Short introduction. Jan Schlemminger, I'm a field application engineer. I'm mostly doing pre-sale support and on-site consulting, and I'm also doing the webinars. And I'm with Tasking since February 2015. I previously developed safety-critical embedded software for several Tier 1 automotive suppliers using Tasking compilers. I also have multiple years of experience in compilers, parallel programming, hard real-time systems, and also safety. This is the agenda, what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to start with what's the challenge? Why do we need cross-linking at all? Or why there's a need for cross-linking? Then I'm going to talk to you about the naive approach to mixing releases. I'm going to introduce to you cross-linking. I'm going to give you more detailed information about it, draw some conclusions, and afterwards I will give you a customer overview and a short customer story, and I will do a Q&A after the presentation. And also webinar recording will be available. So if you're absent here or if you want to share it with your colleagues, we will have a record of this webinar which you can share. Okay, what's the challenge? Why do we need cross-linking, or what's the challenge at all? If you have a safety-driven project, every part of your application has to be certified or at least tested. And these tests are always done for a specified use case, which also includes the compiler release used for verification. And especially if you have third-party libraries like the Infineon MCAL or the SafetyLib, they will specify which release has to be used for compiling. So this is not bound to Infineon. Also, if you're using an RTOS or some other libraries, they will mostly specify we tested this software with, for example, 5.0, and you have to use it, otherwise we can't guarantee anything about our software. And what does this mean for your application? You can't do these certifications, you can't simply take, like back in the old days, your whole software and say, okay, there's a newer compiler release, we just take all the application and compile it again, because if it works somehow, it's okay. Do all the most recent compiler and safety requirements, you can't simply do it. So the challenge at the moment is that most customers are stuck to, for example, the 4.2 R2 release. So because the Infineon certified their MCAL and the SafetyLib for it, and then also other vendors staying at the specific release for their libraries, for example the RTOS, and then your whole application is stuck at the 4.2 R2. And maybe you want to have some other features, newer releases or bug fixes, and yeah, you can't. This is the main reason why we thought, okay, we have to do something about it, because we're having newer releases, we want the customers to use it, but apparently they can't because they're stuck. So a few customers ask us, okay, we thought about why can't we simply compile the third-party libraries with the specified release, for example the 4.2 R2, and our regular application with the newer toolchain, for example the 6.1 or 6.0. And we link them together with the most recent release, for example the 6.0, and we even tried it, and it compiled, and we just started the software and it seems to work. Can you give us the okay that we can do it? And our answer was no, we can't, because it may work on first sight. It may even compile, and you're running your application, you're doing some tests, and yes, it may work, but you can't rely on it may work, and especially not for safety releases. So there are a lot of caveats to be taken care of, and also some questions the customer asks us: shouldn't this be covered anyway by the Infineon EABI? So because all the compilers stick to the ABI with the specified settings, and they specify how it should be taken care of between different compiler releases and even different compilers, for example. So shouldn't the Infineon ABI take care of this? The answer is no, because the ABI isn't complete. There are always some spaces left where you can where you don't have to stick with the ABI, or where it's not specified safely. So the main problem is that even if tasking does several internal and commercial test suites and internal tests for our releases before they are released, we cannot specify that a given toolchain compiles safely or links safely together with another toolchain before testing it. We test every toolchain by itself, but not how they are sticking together if you link with different toolchains. So we thought, okay, maybe we can change it because customers are asking for it, because customers are stuck on the older releases. But this will raise different issues. So we have to address it, and independently from the fact that each toolchain itself is considered safe. So we worked out restrictions and methodically compared different releases to create something like a guideline called cross-linking. And simply trusting that the ABI standard takes care of it isn't enough. So this is the problem, more or less. Each toolchain on itself is considered safe, but as soon as you mix them without taking care of every parameter, of every environment, of every use case, they can't be considered safe anymore as a whole. And this is where we are going to introduce cross-linking. So if you stick to the guideline tasking provides, you can safely mix object files from two old versions on a current TriCore compiler. So this is the explanation for it. I'm going to show you using the laser pointer. So the releases supported for cross-linking with the 6.1 R1 release are the 4.2 R2 and the 5.0 R2. So what you actually do if you're doing cross-linking, or what you have to do, is that you have your application, for example, which you compile with the 6.1 R1, the cross-linking release, and either 4.2 R2 or the 5.0 R. There should be a 2 here, so yeah, we should stick to the 2 here. So it's not R1, it's R2. And you link them together with the 6.1 release. So you can take existing object files compiled with the options, for example, Infineon supplied, for example, the MCAL or the safety lib. You just stick to release Infineon specified 4.2 R2 with the options Infineon specified, and you're doing your regular application with your 6.1 R1 release, and you're linking them together with the 6.1 R1 release, given the fact that you stick to the restrictions we made and called cross-linking. So this is how it works, and at the end we'll have a file with your application compiled with the most recent release, and all the legacy applications compiled with the older releases. So you don't have to recertify your older releases, given the fact that they stick to the guidelines we provide. So of course you will ask, what are the guidelines we specify, or what are the restrictions of it? And I put together some main restrictions of cross-linking. And one restriction is that the object files are compiled with the same list of options after alias expansion, except for options that do not influence code generation. So this is more or less a general guideline, and we are going to release a tool which will check your options and check if they are compatible to each other. So at the moment this is a statement, and we're going to give you a tool which is able to check your options if they are okay, if they can be mixed or not. One other restriction is that the code in the object file does not rely on undefined or unspecified behavior of the compiler as defined by the relevant C language standard. But this is more or less, if you're having something like MISRA, you shouldn't rely on unspecified behavior anyway if you stick to safety guidelines or to MISRA guidelines. So this is not specific to cross-linking. This is more or less something you should do anyway for your regular application. And also the code in the object files only relies on implementation defined behavior that is documented to be identical between two product versions. So at the moment we have this information in our release guidelines, in our release notes, what's exactly implementation defined and what differs between those releases. And we're also going to publish actually what differs between those releases. At the moment you have to do it by yourself, or you can also ask us, is that okay, can we mix these options? So we're currently working on something like a guideline or a tool which is something you can just follow through, and at the moment we have these guidelines. And somehow like a how-to which you can check specifically if you stick to it will be released. And some other restrictions which are more or less obvious, but we have to document it, especially if you have to declare your certifier or something, why you're actually linking together different versions. So instances of flexible array members and bit fields and structures should only be accessed by code and object files that have been compiled with the same version of the compiler. This is something which is quite difficult anyway, even if you have the same version of a compiler and if you link together different object files. But we checked, for example, the mcal and the safetylib, and the mcal and the safetylib don't have any of these. So you should be safe for this. But if you have your individual software or some library we don't know, you have to check if there are any flexible array members and bit fields and structures which exchange information with your regular application compiled with the 6.1 release. But most of the time this isn't the case. These are just internal structures. And one other thing to be taken care of is that the code in the object files does not use the long jump mechanism to transfer control from the code compiled with one version of the compiler to code compiled with another version of the compiler. The example for it is bootloaders. So you cannot have your bootloader compiled with the 4.2 release and your regular application with the 6.1 release and simply jump to the 6.1 release without a reset. So of course this is not possible, but we have to write it down. Okay, so going to switch over to the conclusions. So the conclusion is that it's now possible to safely mix different compiler releases if you stick to the restrictions tasking documented. So before it was technically mostly possible, but nobody checked it actually, and this more or less means that you can't do it. And due to safety requirements, it's not possible anymore, like in the old days, to switch your whole project simply to a newer compiler release for new features or bug fixes. So most of you already know it. You're stuck to a specific release, to libraries, for example, the mcal or the safetylib. And going to switch over to the selection of our key customers. So these are some customers, and as I see, I think most of them are already participating on this webinar. And actually do a request of some of these customers, we implemented cross-linking because they specifically ask us, okay, we have this issue and we would like to switch to a newer release because we would like to use more features, we would like to use the benefit that you have more performance in your releases, and can you do something about it? And this was the reason for us to develop cross-linking or to provide a guideline with the 6.1 release. Okay, some short facts about tasking. We are the Embedded Systems division within Altium, and we have 30 years of experience in embedded software technologies. We are committed to deliver high-performance, high-quality compilers. We have industry-proven highest code optimizations for both speed and size, while maintaining adherence to industry standards for programming and safety. Moreover, we also provide excellent customer support. And this is the Q&A part, and for a list of available webinars, you can also visit our tasking website or to request a free trial, or you can also contact our sales department, or if you didn't test the 6.1 release at all, you can also contact us and give it a try, please. And if you have any questions, the GoToMeeting offers a questions window, and just enter your question there and I will answer it. Okay, there's one question. Can I also cross-link using other releases, for example the 6.0 R1? No. The reason is we did tests, we did internal automated tests, we did manual tests, and we did these for the 6.1 release. So it's not possible to cross-link using the 6.0 release because we didn't run these tests for it. We didn't adapt the compiler specifically to be able to use it. Other questions? Okay, there's another one. Where do I find more information about cross-linking? You can find more information about cross-linking, for example, in the 6.1 user manual. There's an extra section about cross-linking, which will provide more information. And we are also going to release a white paper about the background of cross-linking soon. So you will always find it on our tasking website under resources and white papers. Other questions? Okay, another. Can I also use other releases like the 4.3 along with the 6.1? No, so the same applies as for the 6.0. We tested for the 4.2 R2 and the 4.0 R2. There was a R1 on one of the pages in the picture, but we tested it with 4.2 R2 and 5.0 R2 and the 6.1. So you can't use it with the 4.1, for example. Just these releases we specified. Okay, there's a question. Are there guidelines for using different vendor compiler and tasking compiler? No, there is no guideline. The reason is that you have actually some registers for transferring parameters and addresses, and these are not specified by the EABI, and each compiler vendor specifies their own way of how to use these addresses. So for example, you can't link together tasking and other compiler vendors because each vendor implements it differently. There's another question. Does tasking compiler certified by ISO 26262 standards so I can use it for ASLD products? So for ISO 26262 we provide the safety kit because you cannot specify a tool chain per se. You can only specify use case, and this use case means that you specify specific parameters for the compiler and a specific environment. And if you use different parameters, which you mostly do, different compiler parameters for your application, then the certification wouldn't be valid anymore anyway. So we provide this safety kit to give you the opportunity to do your own recertification of the toolchain. We provide all the needed evidence to do it. You enter your compiler parameters, for example, and you can do this recertification using the tasking safety kit with your use case, because you always have a specified use case. So yes, you can use it for ASLD products using the tasking safety kit. And there's another question, why did you pick these specific releases? The answer is that Infineon released the MCAL for the current generation RX, for the TC2 series. They released the MCAL for the 4.2 R2 and the 5.0 R2 release. So these are the two releases which where Infineon released the MCAL for, and therefore we picked it for cross-linking. And there's another question, can we get a clear evidence measure of how the cross-linking does not cause unintended side effects? We internally run some tests, and either manual tests and also automated tests, and do safety. I think we will do something like adaptation to the safety manual, that we provide evidence that it's possible, or at least we did more or less the test already, but we have to document it for something like the safety kit, or for outside organizations, that we actually did it and that we passed it. But we have this evidence, we just need to document it somehow for outsiders. There's another question, can I use different optimization levels doing cross-linking? One level with version 6 and another level with version 4. The general answer is yes, you can do. If I just go back to the slide. So the statement is more or less this one. They're compiled with the same list of options, except for options that do not influence code generation. So optimizations are more or less affecting code generation, so you have to use the same optimization setting, because code optimization always influences code generation. So if you're using O2, for example, because the safety lab uses O2, you also have to use O2 for your other releases. But this doesn't apply to the whole set of options, because if they don't affect code generation, you can freely vary them. Okay, any other questions? Okay, just give you a minute. Okay, there's another question. Are slides available for us? you will get a record of this webinar, and I think also I can just send you the slides. There was another question. Can I use object files generated by HiTech and application by tasking? As I said, no, it's not possible because, for example, this specific vendor uses a different set of registers, address registers and parameter passing than tasking does. So they are not compatible. Even if they stick to the same EABI, this EABI leaves some open space for the vendors to specify, and these address registers are, for example, different. So it's not possible, no. Just one addition. It's technically not possible, and we also didn't test it. So the reason why we developed something like cross-linking is that it was technically mostly possible before, but nobody tested it, and there are a couple of options which won't work at all, and if you don't use it you won't recognize it. And the same applies to HiTech and tasking, for example. So even if it would be technical possible, we didn't test it, but it's not. So okay, any other questions? Okay. Will it be possible to move from version 6 to 4 instead of version 4 to version 6? In general, it would be possible if you don't use any specified set of options, which is only available in the 6.0 release, for example. So I don't know a specified use case for switching from the 6 to 4 if you don't have any libraries which require the 4.2 release, for example. But if you buy a license if you buy a license now, for example, then you can freely choose the release anyway. So in terms of licensing, you could also use the 3. Whatever release if you would like to use it. So you're not bound to the 6.1 release if you buy a 6.1 release now. You can. Okay, there's use case customer using 4.2 and client using 6. I mean, you can mix these different versions by using cross-linking in one application, but if you buy a tool chain, you can get a key for the 4.2 release and for the 6.2, 6.1 and 6.0 release, for example. So it's not a matter of licensing. In a technical way, how to link these two together, we provide cross-linking, and for licensing, as I said, you can buy a 6. Whatever license and use it with all the versions. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other questions? Okay, will Infineon framework include all of the rules etc? What do you mean with Infineon framework? What exactly? Do you mean the MCAL and the safety lib? I mean, the most common use case for customers is that they compile their application, their regular application with the 6.1 release, and for example, you have the MCAL and the safety lib, which have to be compiled with the 4.2 R2 release. And yeah, this is the most common use case, and therefore we also tested the MCAL and the safety lib if we can apply cross-linking to these, so if they don't violate any of the restrictions we made, and they don't. And I think this question is about that Infineon has given us a framework and we are using it instead of the tasking IDE. Cross-linking has nothing to do with the IDE you are using. It has to do with the option set, and you can freely define these options either on the command line or your individual configuration file or another framework, so you don't have to use our IDE to use cross-linking. Any other questions? Okay, I think if there are any other questions, because we had one customer asking many of these, I think I can also write you an email. So if you have any further questions, we can also do a meeting or so to answer these. But are there any other questions from the other participants? Okay. Then that's it so far. Thank you for attending, and have a nice day. Bye.